Entrepreneurship 101. Entrepreneurship 101 is created to empower our entrepreneurs all over the world. And today I have my special guest, America's leading reading ambassador, speaker, trainer, and of course, a coach too, none other than Mr. Danny Brassel.
Thanks so much for having me, Daniel. I appreciate you and all you do.
Welcome, Dr. Danny on Entrepreneurship 101. Can you please introduce more about yourself that I missed?
Well, if I was going to write an autobiography, it would probably be called Pivots, because I feel like I've already lived 9 lives. 30 years ago, I was a journalist covering President Bush in the 1992 presidential election. Loved my job. I got to meet every editor of every major daily. And one editor offered me the city beat, $16,500 a year. Meanwhile, a friend told me they were hiring teachers in South Central Los Angeles for $25,000 a year. So I became an educator for the noblest of reasons, Daniel, for the high pay. And I actually fell in love with teaching. I've actually taught all age levels, from preschoolers all the way up to rocket scientists. I can make that claim because I used to teach English as a second language to engineering students at the University of Southern California. And in 2005, my wife and I attended a real estate seminar, which turned out to be a scam, and we lost everything financially. But I'm not going to give you the woe is me story. I learned a lot of positive things from the experience. First of all, I learned that my wife is my soulmate. I put her through the ringer and she stood right by me. She's an incredible human being. Second of all, I learned that money is not everything, because you can lose money just like that.
Yes.
Third, I try not to judge other people, because if I was somebody who saw what I had done, I would have said, well, you deserve that. But now I realize, unless you know everything about a person, you really don't know anything about a person. True. Fourth, I became a Christian, which I'm always embarrassed to confess it took a catastrophe. But the more I read my Bible, I realize I'm not the first stroke to find Jesus. And fifth, and probably most applicable for this podcast, was I didn't want to file bankruptcy. And my accountant said, you have to earn this much more money this year. And so I started speaking on the side, and I hit that number right on the number. Well, then the next year, Daniel, he gave me a much higher number.
Oh, yeah.
I hit that number right on the number. So in year 3, I thought, well, maybe I should set a higher number. And basically, during one of the worst economic downturns in the world's history, I was able to build up a highly lucrative speaking business, which eventually attracted the attention of some pretty famous people and companies who wanted me to coach them. And I have to confess, I really resisted coaching for a long time, Daniel, because you need to know this about me. I'm obsessive compulsive. I will not let you fail. I will be on your back until you succeed. Well, now that I work primarily with entrepreneurs and executives and business owners, I find that they're highly motivated. They do the work, and it's probably been one of the most gratifying things that I've ever done. So you can take me whichever direction you choose, my friend.
Yes, and thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Dr. Danny. You're such a natural comedian. Interesting. So let's talk about the read, speak, profit, the hidden connection between reading and professional speaking. So beyond the research, most speakers read to research topics, but you argue for a deeper, hidden connection beyond gathering content. How does the very act of reading fundamentally rewire a speaker's brain for more compelling communication, Dr. Danny?
Well, Daniel, I know that there's plenty of readers that don't necessarily become effective leaders, but I can't name a single effective leader in any field that's not also an avid reader. Just recently, the Canadian Prime Minister gave an incredible speech in Davos where he had read things that the old Czech president, Václav Havel, had read. It was an incredible presentation, and that's where I always see the value in reading, is because it helps you in having better anecdotes for when you are giving presentations.
Definitely. So, if reading is a primary nourishment of a great speaker, what does a balanced reading diet look like? Is it a mix of fiction, nonfiction, poetry, or journalism? And why does variety matter for stage impact?
Well, the research is very clear about this. It doesn't matter what you read. What matters is how much you read. It doesn't matter if you're reading James Joyce or James and the Giant Peach. People who read more read better. If this is a podcast for entrepreneurs, I would say that if you are really trying to learn how to be a much more effective entrepreneur, then you should be reading about other effective entrepreneurs. That's where you're going to get. I mean, I read tons of biographies. I read marketing books. I read personal development books. But then I also read things with my kids that are very different. But in terms of for my business, I'm very specific about the types of things that I'm going to read.
Yes, definitely. So, from the passive to active, Dr. Danny, for professional or professional speaker, how must the act of reading transform from a passive intake for or of information to an active, almost athletic from a preparation? What does a practice look like?
Well, most of the people I work with are not professional speakers. Matter of fact, most of the people I work with have no interest in speaking or they're terrified of speaking. I show them how to use speaking to help grow their business. And really, when you're putting together a presentation, that's the value of reading because you're always looking for anecdotes. And while I think it's really important to have a lot of your own personal anecdotes, if you look at one of the most successful personal development books of all time was Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, in which he shared no personal examples throughout the book. All he did is he interviewed millionaires and gave their stories, and that's the value of reading is finding about other people's stories and incorporating them into your presentation.
So, Dr. Danny, if you align our topic to being entrepreneur, where can you align?
Well, if you're obviously you're going to just read books about entrepreneurship, people that you admire. I mean, I listened to an interview with Elon Musk, and it was very interesting because he said he never read business books. He read biographies of successful business people because he was interested in their struggles and how they overcame them. So I would recommend, if it's good enough for the richest person in the world, it's probably good enough for you as an entrepreneur.
Yes, people, please do read or listen the biography of Elon Musk by Walter Isaacson. It's something good. You will learn a lot. So, vocabulary and lexicon, Dr. Donny, many focus on building a big vocabulary, but you seem to the point towards something more subtle. How does wide reading help speaker develop an authentic lexicon?
Well, that's also one of the interesting things. When I see a person mispronounce a word and people make fun of them, I'm like, you shouldn't be making fun of them. If they're
Mm,
mispronouncing the word, that means they learned the word by reading the word. And
true.
it's really the best way to acquire a better vocabulary. I'm reading a book right now with my son, Master and Commander by Patrick O'Brien's, what the
Hmm.
movie was based on. And I feel stupid. I have to get out my dictionary at least 3 times a page because it's written in like there's all kinds of nautical terms and 18th century type language I don't really understand. And so it's interesting to me.
Definitely, yes. Don't afraid to commit mistakes, especially in reading. Those mispronounced word people. You will learn from them. Oh, next time I know how to pronounce this one. For sure. So when you read as a speaker, are you reverse engineering the author structure? Or how does you analyzing how a book chapter or article is built train your architect of your own speeches?
Well, any good story has the same structure. And when I work with clients, we have, I'm a former teacher, so bear with me. Everything I do either rhymes or it's alliterative. And so we take our clients through what we call our 5C process. The 5Cs are clarity. Before you put together your presentation, you have to have absolute clarity. You have to know who your audience is and what is the problem that you're solving. And then once we understand that, then we can get into the other 4Cs, which are to connect with your audience, to teach meaningful content that serves your audience, to have one clear call to action, and finally to end with an emotional close that gets people running to do business with you. Same thing, the same structure. I mean, you look at the 3-act structure is fairly consistent across most forms of communication, whether it's books or screenplays or speeches. You need to take your audience on a journey.
Yes, definitely. And Dr. Danny, The most memorable speakers are master metaphor makers. How does broad reading habit directly feed subconscious to powerful original analogies spring when needed?
Yeah, I mean, this is why I say to people that you're really missing out if you're not reading children's books anymore. A lot of my best examples come from children's books. You look at like those nursery rhymes, a lot of them serve important lessons. You look at a story I've read to students about 700 times is the story of the Three Little Pigs, where basically you got a mom is sick of her three boy pigs, and so she kicks them out of the house, and they each have to build their own house. And one builds his out of straw, one builds his out of sticks, another one builds his out of bricks. Well, then the big bad wolf comes and he huffs and puffs and he blows the straw house down, and he huffs and puffs and he blows the stick house down, but he huffs and puffs and he can't blow the brick house down. Well, there's a message in that story. The message is all three of the pigs, they all had the same budget. What was the difference? Well, one of them took the time to plan, and so there's a message hidden in there. And this is what I'm always trying to share with the people I'm working with. So a few weeks ago, I was working. Just so you know, I never give the names of my clients. You can ask my co-founder, Coach Jimmy, who we work with. He'll tell you everybody. He loves to name drop. I believe in a little bit of discrepancy. But we have a woman. She's a nutritionist. She has this great program where she helps women with this very rare digestive issue overcome that digestive issue in her 90-day program for $1,997. And so she made a big mistake in her presentation in that she was ending with her call to action. You have to understand there's two types of decision makers in your audience. I call them, we'll be stereotypical and say it's a married couple. I call it the Joe Friday and the Julia Roberts. The husband is Joe Friday. He's the guy sitting there with his arms crossed, sitting there looking skeptical during your presentation, like, how much is this going to cost? What do I got to do? How long is it going to take? And a very well-crafted presentation addresses all of those questions to satisfy the needs of Joe Friday. But Dr. Kathy, this nutritionist, she was ending with Joe Friday. I'm like, you're ignoring half of your audience. The wife is Julia Roberts. Julia Roberts, she doesn't care what it costs. She just wants to feel good. I want to work with Dr. Kathy because she makes me feel good. I love listening to Daniel's podcast because it's like listening to my old brother. It's great. And so what she needed to do was to find a metaphorical story to end her presentation on. I said, well, what do you want your audience to do? And she said, well, I want them to buy my program. I'm like, yes, I know you want them to buy your program. I went back and forth like that for about 5 minutes. Finally, she just let it slip. Well, I want my audience to understand they can't do this on their own. I'm like, you need to hire an expert story. She's like, what's that? I'm like, I'll give you an example. I'll leave you all with this. Many years ago, my wife and I, we had theater tickets. We were dressed to the nines, driving to the theater when we got a flat tire. And my wife said, well, I'll call AAA and get a tow truck here. I'm like, you don't have to call AAA. I'm a man. I can fix a flat tire. So I got out of the car, I opened up the trunk, and I got the spare tire, and then I got the pumper thing, and I got the big jack thing to take off the nuts. And basically, 27 minutes later, I have grease all over my fingers. I look up, my wife has her arms crossed. She's shaking her head like I could have done so much better than this guy. Well, unbeknownst to me, she had called AAA 27 minutes earlier. And this tow truck shows up. And this 17-year-old punk kid hops out of the tow truck and proceeds to fix my flat tire in 3 minutes. I think there are times in life when all of us think that we can do it on our own. But if you want to save time, you want to save money, you want to save a whole lot of headache and embarrassment, you hire an expert. And so what I've done, Daniel, is I've taken what you're talking about, a metaphorical story that I've planted in the audience's mind. So now they're sitting there thinking, well, I've tried lots of diets before, none of them have worked, but Dr. Kathy, I like her. I bet you if she guides me, this will be successful this time. So that's the power of a metaphor.
So, Dr. Danny, let's talk about your personal journey and foundational philosophy. Your career is a series of pivots from journalist to inner city teacher to professor, and then a global speaker and a coach after a devastating financial loss. What core thread connects all these chapters, and what did the pivotal failure teach you about success that you never understood as a successful professor?
Well, I always say, Daniel, that you learn a lot more from your failures than your successes. And probably the most important thing that failures taught me is humility. I ain't all that. And
Mm.
so that's why I listen to your podcast. I learn more every time I listen to your podcast. I want to be a student. UCLA basketball coach John Wooden once said, it's the things you learn after you know it all that make the biggest difference. And so I've learned a lot. All of my failures have actually set me up for success. If I hadn't have been a teacher, I wouldn't have learned how to get people engaged because, you know, I've taught all age levels, I learned what works with a 12th grader does not necessarily work with a kindergartner. But what works with a kindergartner works with all age levels. I call kindergarten New York, New York. If you can make it there, you can make it anywhere because those kids have about a 7 minute attention span. And
Mhm.
I think all audiences are like that. We're all so hooked on our phones now. We have very limited attention spans, and so a powerful presentation when we're connecting with our audience at the beginning of our talk, which is the most important part of your talk. I always tell my clients, you got to rap. Again, forgive me, former teacher, everything wrong. So rap in the first 5 minutes of your presentation, you have to show that you're relatable to your audience. You have to demonstrate your authority. Then you have to share your purpose. So relatable. I'm just like you. I've had that exact same problem.
Mhm.
Authority. And I solved that problem. Purpose. And now I'm on a mission to help people just like you so you don't have to suffer the way I suffered. If you can do that in the first 5 minutes of your talk, you're going to be in a good, much better position to really persuade your audience to whatever it is that you want them to do. And I'm a big believer in a win-win. You know,
Yes.
you have ethical responsibility to help your audience, whether they decide to do business with you or not. But they've given you their most valuable asset, their time. You want to make it worth their while, so you want to serve them as much as possible.
You describe yourself as a Jim Carrey with PhD. And I truly agree with that. Now, Dr. Danny, how does this unique blend of high energy performance and academic rigor define your approach to teaching storytelling as a serious business skill?
Yeah, I think most speaking coaches, I disagree with the way they train people. They say that in order to connect with an audience, you need to talk about the worst part of your life. And there's three reasons why I refuse to do that. First of all, the world just survived a global pandemic. Everybody's had a lot of bad stuff happen to them. I don't think we need more sad stories. I think we need more stories of hope. Second of all, what Coach Jimmy and I train our clients to do is to create what we call a well-crafted story. President Bush would have called it his stump speech. You can call it whatever you want. You don't have to kill it. What it is, this is a presentation that you're going to deliver again and again to get to introduce yourself to new audiences. It's going to become as automatic as the Lord's Prayer or the Pledge of Allegiance. Well, do you really want to keep on reliving the worst experience of your life again and again? I mean, I've got a friend, his daughter was killed in a school shooting. He's told that story to over 1,000 audiences. I have no idea how you do that. I could never do that. And then third is where people get angry with me. I
Mm.
have one basic objective when I'm on stage. I want you to leave feeling better than when you came in. I want you laughing, smiling, happy. I think there's something admirable about that as a basic objective.
Yes.
I believe that people
Yes.
that tell the same sad story again and again, by the 20th time they're telling that story, now those are crocodile tears and now they're being manipulative. And I'm not saying it's not an effective sales approach, it's a very effective sales approach. But I personally don't want to have to take a shower once I get off stage because I just manipulated my audience. There are ethical ways to get people to want to do business with you.
Mhm. So, Dr. Danny, your marketing philosophy is to practice what you preach, turning every podcast or speech into a demonstration of your method beyond word of mouth. What was been the most effective channel for attracting the right clients who are ready for this transformational work?
That's a great question, Daniel. Well, obviously I do a lot of podcasts, and it drives Coach Jimmy crazy that I do so many podcasts. He's like, "Why are you doing these podcasts? That podcast only has one person that listens to it." And there's two reasons why I do podcasts. First of
Mm,
all, it gives me reps. You've
mhm,
already asked some questions nobody's ever asked me before, and so now I have an answer in my head. And I'm like, okay, how do I make that better in the future?
mhm.
I've been blessed to have lots of coaches myself, and one of my coaches, Jim Rohn, he used to say, "You can't pay other people to do your push-ups." Translation: you got to do the work. And this is what I work with a lot of people that are nervous speaking. I'm like, the way you calm nerves is practice. It's all in the reps. I'm training my youngest daughter right now how to drive, and she's so cute. When she gets in the car, she adjusts all of her mirrors. She puts her hands at the 10 o'clock and the 2 o'clock position. I promise you, in a year, Daniel, she'll be driving with one hand, playing with the radio, eating a Big Mac, putting on lipstick, because it'll be automatic to her. She won't have to worry about it anymore. Same thing with speaking. It's a teachable skill. So one reason I do podcasts is I get lots of practice. Second of all, to address Coach Jimmy's statement, well, only one person is listening to that podcast. I learned long ago, it doesn't matter how many are listening. All that matters is who is missing, who's listening.
Definitely.
You know, uh,
Definitely.
Absolutely. I mean, I used to work for a magazine that only had 6 subscribers. The 6 subscribers were all billionaires, and
Yes.
and the advertisers were all trying to get their ads in this magazine because they knew 6 billionaires were reading it. I mean, it doesn't matter how many; it just matters who.
True, that's true, Dr. Danny. And before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in sixth season, abstract poetry in third season, and of course, my book 101 review in sixth season as well. Comedy 101 third season. I hope Miss Dr. Donna will be my guest on Comedy 101. Food 101 is sixth season. Geography 101, Love Letters, Movie 101, Review, Music 101 are fifth season. Science 101, Sex 101, it is fourth season. Trivia 101, Law 101, Mental Health 101, Motivation 101, Entrepreneurship 101, and Bible Verses 101 are my baby podcasts. So listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Dr. Danny, your mission extends beyond business to bring joy back into education and the workplace. How does empowering a CEO to tell a better story to create a ripple effect or positive culture within their entire organization? And Dr. Danny is being disconnected. So, people, let's support Dr. Danny wherever you are. Dr. Donny, please do come back, or let's continue later. What happened is, well, unavoidable. So, so, Dr. Donny, wherever you are, thank you so much for being part on Entrepreneurship 101. Hoping for our episodes on Comedy 101. So my apologies, people. Mr. Donna is being disconnected. And again, please do support him wherever Mr. Donna is doing. Please visit his website. It's Unlock Your Story Full Potential. Transform it into a seven-figure growth engine. He's one of the best coaches that we have. So, more to come, people. See you soon.